Well, hey, everybody, this is Kim Stevens, your community leader for the Women of the Channel Leadership Network. Welcome to another WOW session. Joining me today is Jenny Krystofiak, lovingly called Jenny K. She is the Director of Partner Communities and Channel Engagement at Lenovo. Jenny, thanks for joining me.
Thanks, Kim. I'm excited to be here. This is going to be a great conversation.
What is a little known fact about you?
So it's funny, actually, I was sharing this on another call earlier. My team was like, wait, what? You did? I actually wanted to be an elementary education teacher for quite some time. I studied it for a little while and then kind of admittedly started seeing the difference in salary and then decided to go into corporate America. But what's really interesting is there's a lot of crossover between putting together a lesson plan that you would for a classroom and putting together a business plan. A lot of similarities there too. But yeah, it's going to be a fourth grade teacher is what I thought I wanted to be.
I always like to understand from, especially women in this community who are powerful and so incredibly capable, but surprisingly, a lot of women question their abilities along the way. And I guess I think we all have done this, and this is male or female, but
yeah.
Have you ever gone through that? And I think most importantly is how have you overcome that?
Yeah, so the first part of have I ever gone through it? All the time. And that's kind of to the second part of, you know, by saying overcoming it means that you've done just that, right? That it no longer happens. And that's not the case, right? It's something that I struggle with on a day-to-day basis, right? It ebbs and flows, depends on the day of the week, the project, whatever it may be. But what I try to do in that moment when I'm having those doubts about myself and my skills is to really just break it apart, like figure out, okay, what is it that I don't feel capable of? What do I feel like I'm missing? What do I feel like I'm not good enough at, whatever the project is or the task is, and kind of lay it out for myself and then go, okay, so I may not be good in this area. But then I try to flip it and think, okay, but what do I bring to the table? What skills do I know I have that I can complement, supplement with whatever that project is, and then really pour myself into, really lean into what I know I'm good at. So I really try to look at where my strengths are and how can I leverage those strengths for something that to overcompensate or to compensate for what I feel like I'm weak at, right? And that's really what all of us should be doing, not only individually, but as a team as well, right? Where do we complement each other? So again, I won't say that I've overcome it, but that's how I try to kind of get through that particular, you know, that moment when I'm having those self-doubts. But yeah, have not overcome it. I would love to know if anyone has.
One of the things we learned in a recent live Q&A is to put the word yet at the end. So I can do this. I may not know how to do fill in the blank yet. Right?
I love it.
So, and I think that's really important because we're all going to question ourselves. Let's just face it. Yeah. But if we can change our mindset, we can get, it won't crater us. It won't stress us out, you know?
Exactly. Well, and I think too, like when you call out the things that you feel like you're weak in or that you don't have that ability for, when you start to either physically put it on paper, right, write it down or call it out or name it, whatever, you start to realize, okay, that's the only thing that I may not have in that skill. Like you realize it's not as big of a handicap that you have after all, because it's just, okay, so I've never done that portion of it, but, and then this is where the yet, right? Yet I've done all of these things that make up the remaining 80% of this project. And so you start to realize it's not as bad as, or you're not as ill-equipped as what you thought you were at the beginning, was when you've actually started to sit down and do it.
When you think about characteristics you possess or have observed on what makes for an effective leader, what are some things that come to mind?
Yeah, so for me, I'd say two things that I really try to embody and portray is passion and empathy. If you haven't picked up on this yet, I get really passionate, get really excited about what I get to do, what my team does. And I try to bring that level of energy and excitement to all that I do, because more often than not, it is contagious, right? And so if I can get others to be just as excited, just as motivated as I am, then I know that we can accomplish so much more when we're all like pumped up. I use the analogy of running, right? So let's say you're going to go for a run in your neighborhood, you know, during the week, just kind of on your own, right? You may not push yourself as far as you normally would. You may feel like you're not going to be able to do, I'm just going to do 20 minutes this time, so 30 minutes, whatever, right? You may not feel like you can push yourself, or you may take more walking breaks than you normally do. I may or may not be speaking from experience, right? But when you sign up for a race and you're doing a 5K or half marathon or whatever it is, and you're running along that path, when they have those people that are on the sidelines that are cheering you on, like that gets you through. And then when you get to that, like I've got goosebumps even just thinking about this. When you get to that finish line and you have these swarms of strangers that are cheering you on, you have that adrenaline rush and you make it through, and you finish that race, whatever your time is, right? And you get through it, and you just have this sense of accomplishment that you can just tackle anything. And so that's that feeling that I strive to elicit from my team and from those around me. How can I cheer them on to give them that adrenaline rush to really push through whatever the task is that we're trying to do, right? I want to be that on that sideline for them. Now, on the flip side of that, though, and this is where the empathy comes in, is there's just days where we're not feeling it, right? We're not feeling like going for a run at all. And that's okay, right? And I want my team to know that. I want them to know, or the people that I work with, that I get that there's just days we're off, right? So I want to be there and to help them get through it, whether it's to be a sounding board, to just get it off their chest, to talk through it, right? To maybe think about, do what I just said before, like, okay, what is it that you think is holding you back? Okay, what are those skills, right? Being that, again, that sounding board to help them through it, or encouraging them to go, you know what, just let's take a break. Why don't you go take a 30-minute, go walk around the office, walk around, whatever you need to do, come back refreshed and revitalized to continue to go through. So when they come back, I want them to know that I will be that cheerleader on that sideline, rooting them on to really help them come back and then power through and get to that finish line of whatever that state is. So it's really about, like I said, the passion and the excitement, and then also the empathy to know that not everyone's always going to have that high level of energy, and that's okay. And how can we help get you through what you need to get through?
Are there people or things or whatever that you do for yourself, Jenny, to help keep you inspired, along this journey?
I try to take some time to think. And like, it's so simple, right? But it's really being able to disconnect for a little bit. And I don't necessarily mean disconnect from work, but disconnect from the day-to-day, right? Your tasks, the meetings that you've got to be, and just get my thoughts onto paper. I don't have it here next to me, but I actually keep a sketchbook of where I can just jot down thoughts that aren't in any necessarily, order, but it helps me kind of think more broadly about whatever it is. Now, I use it both in my personal life and in my professional life as well, like thinking through big thoughts and just, sketching that all out. And the reason I say that is because if I can get my thoughts swirling out of my head and put onto paper, then it's like, wait a minute, this could work. Like I could see us doing that. And then that's what gets me going, and then helps me then to kind of share that then with the broader team. So really being able to find that time to just sit and think, get the thoughts together, that's what gets me going too. But then it is disconnecting from work and spending that time, with family, with friends. I really do try to preserve as I'm actually pretty good with it. With the weekends is my time to disconnect and spend that time with family and friends. And, as soon as that laptop closes on Friday afternoon or evenings, I switch from work Jenny to mom, wife, friends Jenny, and that's what we do there. And that's also the chance where I can really recharge and come back then ready for the week ahead.
Are there any other best practices that you do to make sure that you have that integration that works for you? Yeah.
I really strive, and I'm using the word strive because it's something I've worked towards that I don't always do perfectly or do it well, but I really strive to be efficient with my time. So when it is work time, when Jenny, work Jenny is in the mode, I'm going to be in the mode, and that's what I've got to get done. Really making sure that the meetings that I have, that the free time that I have is being within the working hours is being used efficiently. But then even at home, like there's going to be times where, I can get other things done. So I'll give you an example. Last weekend, we headed to down to the coast of North Carolina to go camping with some friends of ours. We had about a 2-hour drive. So we're in the car, my husband's driving, eyes on the road, focused on paying attention. The kids are in the back, they've got their headphones in, just not doing their own thing. I had 2 hours. Now I could have scrolled through social media. I could have played some Candy Crush, could have done some things, but I knew I had a few things I had to knock out for work. And I'm like, I got a hotspot. Everyone else is occupied, they're doing it. So I try to use my time efficiently. I had 2 hours of uninterrupted time, right? And I could get a lot of stuff done because when we got to the campsite, I could shut my laptop and know that I got that thing done and I could check it off the list and be done. So I try to use those moments of being really efficient with my time. Now, I know it sounds kind of counterintuitive, like I was with family, but yet I was still working. They were all occupied, right? So it's like what else was I going to do? Scroll Instagram? Yes, I may have done some of that in between stuff, but I try to be really efficient with the time that I have so that when I do switch that mode, when I do close the laptop at the end of the day, and I can solely focus on my family and friends, it's not perfect, right? So I want to make sure that, like, I listen to a lot of podcasts and I hear a lot of women talk about, how they manage their time. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so bad. Like, I don't always do that. There are times where I am checking emails during dinner, right? I try not to do it often, but it happens. But it's really about having that conscious effort to really think about how to use your time wisely with whatever task it is that you're doing at that time.
I know this now, but dang it, I wish I knew that when I first started out. Like, is there anything that comes to mind?
I have this expectation they have it all figured out. Like, they know all the answers. They know how to handle every situation, that anyone could pick up the phone and call them and ask them any question, obviously work related, and they would just know the answer to right away, wouldn't stumble or whatever. That's not the case. I don't have all the answers. My VP doesn't have all the answers. My EVP doesn't have all the answers, and so on up the chain. And knowing that they're very smart people, but like that they don't know everything, and that's okay. And because I had all of my leaders on such a high pedestal that I'm like, there's no way. Like, I'm never gonna know how to do this or how to do that. And it's a journey that you get to, but what they do is they surround themselves with people on their team, on peers that do know the answers, and they build the relationships and have that network that they can rely on, whether internal, actual working, network, or outside of the company or outside of their organization that they can leverage as well. And so it was kind of an eye opener for me that now that I'm in a leadership position, and let the record show if any of my team's watching this, I don't know all the things, but I'll work to get that answer for you. And that's what they do. And I think knowing that kind of relieves some of that self-induced pressure of like, I have to know everything. No, let me also be clear. I still struggle with that. Like, full disclosure, I still struggle with not being able to answer all the questions. And it's something that I work on regularly. And I'm always reminded of one of my mentors told me very early on. He was like, Jenny, you have to be comfortable with the uncomfortable. You have to be okay with being uncomfortable. And you can apply that to so many different situations. But even in that, right, it's okay if you're in a meeting and you're uncomfortable because you don't necessarily know the answer. That's okay. I'll take that back and I'll work on it, or I'll work to get the answer, whatever it may be.
As a mom, don't you just want to like share those little nuggets with your kids? Just whatever path they go, those are life skills that will serve them well.
There's so many correlations there of like, it's a process that they have to go through. I can't expect my 10-year-old to be able to process something that when he becomes 17 could process. But we plant the seed now and we'll work through it. And it's just like us as individuals, right? I could go back in time, I won't say how many years, to the beginning of my career and tell myself those same things, but I have to go through those processes to be able to actually truly learn that lesson that happens 10 years later, or however many years later, right? And I think that's what you said, journey, and I'm such a, like, you have to go through it. You can't skip the steps. I strongly discourage people from trying to skip levels and just get to the end destination, because there's so much to be learned in that period. Again, just like you can't expect a 10-year-old to know what a 17-year-old knows or behaves or does or thinks, because they just haven't gone through those experiences yet.
Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah, you got me all excited and pumped up again.
And it's amazing because, this is what this community is about, right? To meet other women on whatever journey we're on, but we all share so much in common, and then just to learn from one another, regardless of where you are in your career, right? Fresh out of school, absolutely, up to you've been doing this forever and ever. We all have something that we can learn and share. So I just really appreciate it.
Absolutely. It was such a pleasure, Kim. I love talking with you. Again, you got me all excited. I almost want to hang up the phone and go tell all my colleagues that are here, be like, guess what? Okay, I learned this, and we talked about this, and don't forget this, and it was great. But then I'll just send them the link to the
Oh, I love it. Well, you guys, so listen, when you listen to this, would you please just reach out to Jenny, at least give her a thumbs up or a like or a heart, something, and let her know that you really appreciate what she has shared. We hope that it has inspired you just to continue to be the best person that you can be. So thank you for joining us, and we'll see you guys on the next WOW session. You guys take care.